Please start.
Welcome to Tokyo. Yeah, it's really fantastic to come back again for another Plone event. They had me out for the symposium 3 years ago? Three, yes. So I want to thank them for giving us the opportunity to bring all of you here as well. Can we give a quick hand to all of our organizers? I have organized events, a few symposia, I guess, back in the States, and I know how stressful it can be, and I have never seen a staff look so calm at the beginning of an event, so kudos to you. Yeah, so I want to talk about Plone. That seems to be why they bring me here, and specifically the Plone roadmap. Before I get into that, I specifically want to call out Timo for pointing me out on Twitter for fixing my slides right before the talk, while at the same time breaking 5 of them. So thank you guys. That's awesome. But we'll get to that when we get there. So a lot of discussion over the last few years about what the Plone roadmap is, and particularly around this idea of Plone 2020. This is a discussion that was started many years ago, really kind of came to a head in Brazil at the 2013 conference. And Philip's been really, Philip, where are you? There he is, way in the back. Really instrumental in kind of leading this discussion. And it's mainly based around this idea of the end of life of Python 2.7. Plone is built on Zope, which is running Python 2.7. And the Python Foundation announced that it would be reaching the end of its life. No more bug fixes, no more hot fixes, security fixes at the beginning, as of January 1st of the year 2020. Since we rely so heavily upon that, we needed to figure out a way to move forward. Needed to figure out a way to move forward with Python 3. Otherwise, when Python 2.7 died, so would Plone. So like I said, at the Brasilia conference, we had a huge discussion. I think there were 20 to 30 people involved about how we can possibly make this move forward. This is really the point where the danger we were facing became clear. At that point, there was not much activity within the Zope community. It was essentially dead. And Paul Everett had said something along the lines of, can Plone possibly survive with a dead body of Zope hanging around its neck, which is not an uplifting idea. So we spent a lot of time discussing, do we stick with Zope, try to get it upgraded, running on Python 3, or do we try something completely new? We were talking about, do we build this on top, try to rebuild this on top of Pyramid, build something completely from scratch? How do we make this happen? And in short, how does Plone survive past the year 2020? In Bristol the following year, Martin Aspelli led us in a discussion to identify what our strengths and our weaknesses were. And that was a really great talk. There was a lot of involvement from the group, and a lot of really great ideas generated. That turned into what became the current Plone roadmap. And so we started out talking about what were our assets, what made Plone great. And by far, the top answer was that it had such a strong community. We have a great group of people that will travel anywhere in the world to come and get together and hear more and share about Plone. We have a community who is really big on producing add-ons, sharing what they know, and building amazing stuff. We have really great security, complex workflows, granular access control. We're very flexible. You can build a wide range of sites for very different audiences. From a small one-person site, someone with a very limited technical background, to a large enterprise site with complex business processes and lots of custom features and lots of people making changes. It's very extensible. The extensibility, very diverse ecosystem of add-on products. We have a growing number of distributions like Quave, Castle, and the EMEO products. And we have a solid user experience. And we place a strong emphasis on what the editor experience is, the content editor experience is. We place a strong emphasis on accessibility. And then we looked at what are our challenges. And those were some pretty big ones at the time. Like I said, Python 3, the end of life in January of 2020. And this was a matter of survival for us. We can't continue to release release on top of Python 2.7 if it's not receiving security patches. The next is a complex stack. We have 17 years of accumulated technical debt. We have multiple ways of doing the same thing. You can write a page in DTML or a page template in your skins folder or a browser view or something in your Diazo setup. There are just too many ways to do things, so it becomes harder to teach people, harder to say this is the way forward. And it's a monolithic application. Plone is a large stack that does content management, but content management, while it's still important, it isn't everything these days. Content management needs to be part of a wider set of applications in most websites these days. So how are we as a community facing these challenges and creating opportunities to grow in the future? The first one is, as I've mentioned many times, the Python 3 problem. So we're running on a complex stack that's running on a soon-to-be obsolete version of Python. So we really had two approaches to this that we identified during those early Plone 2020 discussions. And they approached the problem from different ends. One was to burn it all to the ground and start from scratch, which had its problems, but also had a lot of appeal to some members of our community. And two is probably the saner option, which is try to get our existing stack to work, upgrade it, and then pull out the features that were no longer necessary. So the first option, to burn it all to the ground, is it's what's known today as Guillotina. And we're happy. Timo, I'm not talking smack. Come on. So Guillotina was an effort to take what's great about Plone and Zope and start over and build that from the ground up based on Python 3 and async IO basis. And this became what's known as Guillotina, and Guillotina is a proud member of the Plone family at the moment, so we're really happy about that. Ramon tells me it's a framework first. It's not meant to be a full-featured application. It's meant to be built upon. There is a CMS package being worked on now that's called guillotina.cms, which adds things like workflows, link integrity, and there are a couple sites already in production. They're trying to make sure they use existing tooling, the database indexing, and rather than building their own. And they're trying to keep it smaller, modular, easy to get into, and plug and play based on the problems you're trying to solve. It does try its best to maintain its compatibility with Plone's REST API, which we'll get to later, and lets us do some interesting things. It looks pretty cool. I'm excited that it exists. I'm excited to use it. I'm excited to try it out for a couple projects I have. It's super performant. Ramon tells me it's being successfully used in sites with more than 20 million objects. And right now, their main focus is on building out a community. They have, you said, 5 companies currently working with it, and there are 20 add-ons that exist. So yeah, it's growing quickly. There are 3 talks this week about Guillotina. If you're interested, highly recommend checking those out. The second option, the take what we have and fix it and then clean it up, it was the second option, and that's the modernizing Zope. I found this quote on Reddit, and I love it, and whoever wrote it deleted their name or account, so, but they say, Zope is a dinosaur, but it's a dinosaur with teeth. Don't walk up to it and start kicking it, screaming, roll over, you bastard, or it'll eat you. And I thought that was so appropriate, especially here, because it's, I realize Zope is basically Godzilla. I mean, it's a gigantic mutant dinosaur. It's got radioactive origins. It's very difficult to kill. It has really a complex dual nature as both the hero and the villain. And it occasionally arises from the depths to save the day. And that's what happened for us. Here, if you want to take a shot of that, please feel free. I spent more time on this than I should have. So thankfully, Zope is not dead. We had a number of the mostly silent Zope community show up and help us with this task. And without them, we never would have gotten there. So there's an incredible amount of work that went into create a version of Zope that supports both Python 2 and Python 3. So the current Zope 4 supports Python 2.7 and the current versions of Python 3. It included a complete rewrite of the restricted Python module, which is not something that anybody wanted to have to do, but they took care of it, so we didn't have to, which is awesome. They have replaced the Z server with a WSGI-based publisher, but at the same time managed to keep it in a way that we aren't going to feel any massive pain from that. It works in a way that mimics the existing Z server setup. We don't have to worry about middleware. It's also using a Chameleon templating engine, which is a much faster rendering engine for page templates. Plone's been using this since Plone 5.0, but now it comes as default. And a more efficient datetime module. Again, Plone adopted this in 4.3, but now everybody gets it. And it has a refreshed ZMI. It's using Bootstrap. Yeah, don't get too excited because those are still frames. but it's a start. So a lot of work was done to get Plone running on Zope 4. We had a Python 3, or a version of Zope that could be used on Python 3, and then we could begin to build Plone on top of that. So we started with getting Plone 5.1 running on the Python 2.7. I apologize, because this talk is just a lot of version numbers. And I'm getting sick of it already. So we started with Plone 5.1 running on Zope 4 using Python 2.7, so the old version. And we merged that during the sprints at last year's conference in Barcelona, and then began to work to fix everything that broke when we then ran that using Python 3. And we broke so many tests. There was a sprint last month, I believe, that in Halle, Germany, that got together at GoStept to work on finishing up all the tasks, fix all the remaining tests, and get everything running again. It was one of the largest sprints in Plone and Zope history. Hosted by GoStept. And yeah, we had over 30 people there. It was an incredible amount of work, and 2 weeks ago we were able to clear up the last of the failing tests and actually start making releases. What we've managed to accomplish hardly seemed possible back in 2013 in Brasilia. It's an amazing amount of work, an amazing amount of effort. So Plone's real-world use, though, is limited without its ecosystem of add-ons, so we've begun migrating those as well. So these are all development tools, so most of you don't care, but that's fine because these are giving us the ability to start to migrate the rest of things. Having these in place allow us to start to work on all those other add-ons. But we're going to need a lot of effort to begin to upgrade add-ons, test things, and document the migration process. So part of this move to Python 3 is that we did not upgrade archetypes. It's already been deprecated. This is your final warning to stop using it and move to dexterity. There will be a database migration involved in the move from Python 2.7 to Python 3. There's been a lot of effort put into this to make it as simple as possible. There's stuff about strings and pickles and bytes that I don't understand. Yeah, it's being taken care of, and yeah. So basically, the process will work pretty similar to how we migrated Plone itself. You'll start up your site in Python, in Plone 5.2, running Python 2.7, run this database migration, and then start it up in Python 3. And yeah, I'm sure it won't be that simple, but we're working to make it so. I really want to take a moment to say thank you. This effort to get Plone and Zope running on Python 3 and able to move into the future is huge. Paul compared it to exchanging all the plumbing and electricity in your house. It's a lot of work, and afterwards you'll be safer because the house isn't going to burn down. But visibly, you still just have faucets and electrical outlets. It makes the effort put into this all the more commendable. It proves a dedication to the long-term success of the project, and it's a really big boost for confidence building. So I specifically want to call out Philip. He's been leading these discussions for years. He's been spearheading this effort, and he's done an amazing amount of work. So Philip, can you stand up so we can clap at you? Is Jens here? No. No, okay. Jens was instrumental as well, but we won't clap for him because he didn't show up. GoSept was highly involved, working on the Zope portion of things, hosting sprints and all of that. So they deserve a lot of credit. And really, anybody who's worked on this Python 3 migration, if you could stand up. Yeah. Really fantastic work. Thank you. Yeah, and we're really looking forward to having you back so that you can actually start making new features for Plone again. So there are 2 talks this week by Philip and David. Philip's is more a story of the whole process. David's is more of a deep dive in the technical details of the migration. So we're going to be releasing this as Plone 5.2. There will be an Alpha 1 available this week. We're frantically trying to wrap up the final packages, but there are a lot to do. So we're going to have it this week. Philip, hopefully by the time for your talk like you asked, but I can't promise anything. And our goal is to have Plone 5.2 final out by February. We want to give you as much time, you and the community, as much time to get upgraded as possible. So that if migrating to Python 3 is a priority for you, and it should be, that you have the time to get your stuff done before it hits end of life at the end of, or at the beginning of 2020. So this is an aggressive schedule, so we really need to have everyone involved in testing, updating add-ons, and helping us with the documentation for the migration. So what does Plone 5.2 look like? So like I said, it's primarily Zope 4 with Python 3. It will run on 2.7, but you don't want to do that. And there's also going to be a limited set of features that have been kind of building up in the pipeline while we've worked on this. So like I said, we aren't shipping with archetypes. If you install the 2.7 version, you can still install archetypes, but it will not be available once you move to Python 3. We're going to ship with Plone REST API. Get on it. Yeah. And there's also been some work on a portal skins cleanup. This is part of the simplifying our stack, finding one way to do things. We have a lot of page templates and forms and scripts living in the portal skins folder that we're working on cleaning up. This has been an ongoing effort for years, but those aren't testable or not easily testable. And moving them to browser views gives us something that we can provide better hooks for and actually test. And that'll include the login and registration work that was started at the Emerald Sprint back in 2014. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, it's finally here. We've taken a simplified version of what was done there and brought it into modern Plone. God, that was Plone 4.3, wasn't it? Yeah. So it's really one of the most crucial features of Plone. It's the first one that everybody sees logging in or registering for the site, but it's really poorly tested and it's very difficult to customize. So we've added more hooks for things. We've simplified the way it works, but given you more ways to get into it. And it removes the last remaining controller page templates that we have in Plone so that we can begin to deprecate those. And again, provide one way of doing things. We've started to clean up our static resources. We've moved all of our static resources out of the CMF Plone package and moved them into a separate package. Yay, more packages for me. But so this means that the version of mockup being used by your site is no longer directly tied to the Plone release, so that we can more easily apply bug fixes in the mockup layer to your sites rather than waiting for a Plone release to come out. It allows the front end to develop at a much faster pace. Yeah, so we're removing the old resource registries. That's Portal JavaScript and Portal CSS. And there will be an improved navigation setup, providing drop-down menus for Plone by default, providing a mobile-first styling, really optimized for speed. If I remember correctly, it's significantly faster, and it'll be highly configurable. And we're providing fixes to some structural issues in the Barceloneta theme. One of those is the column setup, the left, right, and main columns. You may have noticed that on mobile, they kind of go all weird. So now those have been fixed, put in the proper order in the templates themselves so that on mobile, they'll stack nicely. On smaller screens, they'll stack side by side. And on desktop, they'll show up the way you expect them to. There's also been some minor improvements to the footer portlets. Before, when you created footer portlets, they would just stack on top of each other. Now we're using the existing Bootstrap grid to lay them out nicely so you get a nice doormat and a much nicer layout. So like I said, we're going to have an Alpha 1 this week. We'll have Plone 5.2 final by February, but we need everybody's help to get there. So back to our challenges and opportunities. The other one was this idea of the monolithic application. So how can Plone continue as a best-in-class content management system when content management isn't everything anymore? And that kind of brings in this idea of the headless CMS. So that basically the idea is that you have a content management backend that provides, it exposes its features via a RESTful API. Anything can connect to it, whether that's any number of JavaScript frameworks, native mobile apps, static site generators, or even IoT devices. I mean, imagine being able to say, Alexa, what items are in my review queue? That would be pretty cool. Most of the other major players in the CMS space are actively pursuing this, and we're really well positioned to take advantage of it. Most of the other CMSs, though, are primarily focused on just the simple CRUD operations, create, read, update, and delete. But good content management is more than just database operations. That includes things like breadcrumbs, navigation, commenting, workflow actions, reorganizing content while maintaining link integrity, providing control panels, and handling complex page layouts. So those are the things we're making available now through Plone REST API. And like I said, that's available now for you to use. It'll be shipping with Plone as part of 5.2. I asked Timo last night what I should say about Plone REST API, and he said, it's pretty boring, actually. But that's what you want from an API. It should be full of features, but you definitely don't want excitement. Plone has a superior set of features, and unlike other CMSs which are trying to implement a REST API, Plone comes with a very clean and robust concept of content management based on our deep experience and high standards of quality. So we're able to say we have 17 years of experience in developing a top-of-the-line content management system. Do you want to try to develop your own permissions and workflow model? Do you want to invent your own breadcrumbs? We provide this for free and expose it in a straightforward way so that you can use as much or as little of it as you want in your project. This also allows us to split the pace of the development in both the back end and the front end. Front-end development for us has always been an issue because it moves at so much of a faster pace than you want your content database to move. So that now we can provide a stable API, a stable backend that moves at a measured pace, keeps your database intact, while keeping up with modern development trends. So this is what's known as this front end is what's known as Volto. It was formerly called Plone React. It's been changed a few weeks ago, I believe. So yeah, we're using Volto, which is a type of Venetian mask, I think. Yes. So the face on the headless back end. So the idea behind this, the main reason for creating this, they wanted to allow front-end developers to avoid the Plone rabbit hole. Things like, I want to create a view, so I need to learn TAO and browser views and ZCML and generic setup. The goal is to allow them to stick to front-end techniques only. They want to stick with one stack to build their front end. Plone's currently using a mix of jQuery and React and Mockup, which is our own rolled JavaScript library. Volto is using simply React. And they want to use existing libraries, tooling, and rather than building our own. So it's giving us a far faster experience. In real-world tests, they're able to get away with a Plone running fewer Zope instances and using fewer server resources. Basically, yeah. So the back end is doing the initial rendering for the first view, and every view thereafter is handled by the client, making requests to the API, which is much faster than you've ever seen from standard Plone. And yeah, so and rendering work is handed off to the client. So one of the main things they're using as part of this is a new design and framework we've been developing for the look and feel of what content management should look like. And this is via Albert. Can you wave your hand? Yes, he's been doing a lot of work. I've been asking for years for design documentation for us. You know, what should Plone look like? If you are a developer and you're making a form, how should it look and behave? Because if we let it up to the developers, the Python people, the backend people, the people that have been doing this for years, we're going to get what we have now, which, while it's great, could be much better. So we wanted to have a very consistent look and feel, a very consistent behavior from everything. And he's done a fantastic job of thinking through from the ground up how Plone should behave. It's designed to work flawlessly on mobile. This is what it looks like implemented on top of Plone using Volto. This is usable today. I was going to do a live demo, but I think they broke the site while I was working on it. No, it's unbroken now? Well, okay, I'm stuck with this now. So it is usable today. It runs on top of existing Plone with REST API. They have 2 sites available, or running in production now, and loving it. It hasn't reached 100% feature parity with Plone yet, but it's getting close. Things like control panels and some of those other more back-end features. We're still working on the REST API endpoints for those. And it does support internationalization, which is something that they worked really hard to get right. So there's been a revamped editing experience. This is still growing, but very much an inline formatting abilities. There's a lot of discussion around what kind of editor we want, how to involve layout as well. And there will be a few talks around talking about that this week. But they want to make it as simple as possible to add and edit content. Yeah, we have all the existing properties, and that's the folder contents view. And because both Plone and Guillotina are implementing a similar API, it works on top of both of those. And because it's using the same Pastenaga UI, it looks exactly the same. So Guillotina has a few features that Plone provides that aren't supported yet, but they're very near feature parity. Customizing Volto is really simple. I sat in on the training this week, and it was really fascinating to watch how they've developed this. This is part of Google Summer of Code project. In back there. This is a fantastic project to build a basically get you started on customizing the front end, the look and feel of your site, and the way it works to get you up and running as quickly as possible. It is basically what you're creating is essentially, if you're coming from the traditional Plone world, what you're creating is essentially a policy or theme package where you're overriding views and templates and the way things look, as well as providing functionality and settings. And yeah, it basically is an extension of the existing Volto package. So yeah, and it provides JBot style overrides. So coming from traditional Plone, it was very intuitive as to how I would override, say, the logo or any of the settings. And it's basically creating your site as a well-defined web application, essentially. So this is the URL. It's going to change, but they're providing a redirect or else. And so it's available here for you to try out and poke around with. It's really quite cool. There's a lot of features still on the wish list. Like I said, we're still working on creating all of the right API endpoints to provide those, but there's quite a bit of work happening. So a lot of that work is going to happen. Sally has been working hard to make this happen this year. We're going to co-opt the traditional Plone Open Garden and make it a sprint based around the front-end experience. So the customization story, internationalization, the migration story, what it looks like to build add-ons against this, and working on documentation and a lot of accessibility testing. So we really want to get everybody there. We're excited to see this happen. There are 6 talks this week. Yes, 6 talks this week about Volto. You'll see them in your program as Plone React, but don't be fooled. Really, some really interesting things around the process and around how it's going to look as a for you as a integrator or developer moving forward. All right, I'm going to bring Paul up. He offered to do some interpretive dance to fill up any remaining time to talk about the state of the Plone Foundation.
Yes, I will say a few things about the state of the Plone Foundation, and that is tied also to Plone in general. There will also be an annual general meeting of the Plone Foundation membership. That is tomorrow at, well, after the lightning talks. I think it's 18:20. But after the lightning talks, anybody is welcome, but only members are allowed to vote. We have had discussions since last year, but they have a bit stalled about bringing the Pyramid and Pylons project into our fold. We plan to continue those discussions and get them moving again, but it was a busy year for a lot of people. But that is something that is definitely still on the radar. We will just have to see how we welcome the long friends that they are officially in the arms, so that they have a legal home over their heads and a place for the code to sleep at night. The foundation gets some money in, and we also spent money. We spent it this year a lot on sprints. We funded and helped fund 10 sprints this year. So that is where a lot of the work in Plone is being done. Among them was the giant Salt Lab sprint, but there are also smaller sprints in between. And also community meetups in Jamaica and Bangladesh. So there are things happening in places where you may not suspect it. One other thing, Andy Leap is the person together with me who maintains the contributor agreements. And since the last conference, there have been 55 new contributor agreements signed. That's something nobody ever sees because Andy does most of the work behind the scenes. And I want to have a big hand for Chris Ewing. Chris Ewing is our Google Summer of Code coordinator, and he has done an amazing job this year, as he did last year. So thank you, Chris, waving in the general direction of Seattle. We have had 4 students this year. Shriyansh, who worked on an IFTTT plugin for Plone. Kumar Akshay, who worked for Plone CLI project. AJ, who worked on Gatsby. And Nilesh, I hope I pronounced your last name right, Gulia, who wrote the Create React app. They are all 4 here, so if you could please stand up. We helped them come here, and we are very glad that they came. And all of them will also be giving talks about their projects, so feel free to go there and learn about the awesome work that they did. Thank you, students, for all the work that you did, and very welcome to Tokyo and to the Plone community. And also a special thank you for O'Shane. O'Shane was our student last year, and he liked us so much that he's coming back from Jamaica. Thank you so much. Now, all of this is only possible because we also get donations and sponsorships. So if your company has sponsored the Plone Foundation, thank you very much. You are what makes all this work possible. I want to point out 2 incidental one-time only, well, yeah, unfortunately, up till now, one-time only ones. Are there people here from Imeo? Yes. Imeo won an award by the European Commission last year for an open source contest in the category of sharing and reuse, which is what we do. And they very generously decided to give a major portion of the prize money to the Plone Foundation. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And there was also a special donation by a company that doesn't do much Plone these days anymore, but is very tied to us through deep bonds of friendship. And one of them is here. Nate, would you please rise? Because NiteoWeb decided to give a sizable donation. Thank you very much to both the conference and to the Plone Foundation. Yeah, having Pyramid people here is very nice, and we also work more and more together with other Python-based web solutions. So I also extra want to point out that today there is an extra track also, and that will be hosted by Nikki and Mami. If you could stand up, please. Yes, and I think Mami is also, you are the representative from Django Girls Tokyo, if I got it correct. And so if you want to learn more about other Python web technologies, you are free to also join that track or talk to them in the break because they are interested in us and we are interested in them. We work together with a lot of other Python web frameworks in a German project called CMS Garden, and they also come to our meetings and we go to their meetings and stuff, so we're good friends. That was about what I had to say, so I'll hand the mic back to Eric for questions, I think, or?
Yeah, there's one other announcement we wanted to make. Could I bring up Alan and Erico?
You want to announce? You want to announce?
No, you go ahead.
It's your idea.
No, I don't want to say.
All right.
Sure, yeah.
I guess in 2013 in Brazil, there was a Dornelis Award that was started at the PyCon.
Yeah, we started in 2011.
Okay. Time flies.
Yeah, time flies. And this is something that goes in the Python Brazilian community. We give every year an award to those persons that actually help the community. It's not a popularity contest. We like to enforce that. Because Dornelis was an inspiration, he was the guy that forced me to come to the Plone conference. For years, I helped other people from Brazil to come, and he basically paid my trip and said, you go, now you owe me money. So actually, Dornelis was that kind of person. He would help others to achieve more, and he would help others to know more, and he would always collaborate.
And so, yeah, Dornelis started with a few of the Brazilian guys who have come through the Zope world, Sidney da Silva and a few other ones. And so my understanding is that we're looking to have a Dornelis Award.
Scholarship
inside the Plone community, and it will be providing a travel for a person who the Plone Foundation recognizes to come to a Plone conference, one or more people. And so this is going to be happening, I guess this go with the Plone conference, we'll be figuring out, the Plone Foundation will be figuring out some of the details.
Yeah, the whole idea is to do to others what Dornelis did to me. It's to bring people here, to bring them to the community. As the newcomers saw, people usually keep coming to Plone conferences. It's like most of us in here have been to more than 3. So the idea is to bring new people that are doing amazing stuff, working, but they are from like poor countries like Brazil right now. And actually help people to come to the Plone conference, be part of the Plone community. I remember one thing, Nate, the first Plone conference he went was San Francisco? No. But San Francisco was the one I shipped in to help you go there, right? Yes. That conference, we had 3 people actually, Domen, you, and Franco. And it's impressive because I remember donating money to all of them to go. And every year now I hear that they are donating money to the foundation and helping the foundation move. So actually Plone is the community. And we need to bring more people here. We need to bring people here because they will keep coming.
Yeah. So that's the announcements, I think. So hopefully we'll have some more information and before the end of this conference. Thank you.